Hello lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to the first Park Home Life of 2025. Happy New Year everybody. I'm coming to you from my sick bed. On New Year's Eve I came down with some kind of cold or some, virusy thing, and I've had a fever which has come down now. And now I've just got, the cough and the cold and all that kind of thing. So I'm in a kind of nest on the sofa. My son Joey's still here and he's looking after me, and I'm sure I'll get over it, soon enough. So apologies that I haven't been able to make a big video for you. I'm sorry for apologising. I'm not supposed to apologise. That's one of my, not resolutions, but intentions. So what I've got for you today is a little clip of the children, my children, they're adults, walking on the beach on Boxing Day with Stella. And then the main part of the video is something that I had kind of in reserve, which is the eco print piece of cloth that I made from the woods here when I first moved here. I have decided to make it into a scroll. So I filmed the process of me putting it onto the backing cloth and talking about how I do that and everything. So that's today's video. It's a little bit unconventional, but I'm not very well, so it's the best I could do. I did just want to say, I don't know if you can see up there on the wall behind me. I'm just going to pan around a little bit. I'm just holding my phone in my hands. That's very unprofessional. Do you see that lovely Indian wall hanging up there? I'll show you in more detail, when I'm well and up and about. But I bought that with some mad money that a lovely lady whose name I've forgotten pledged onto my Ko-fi page, or gave me via my Ko-fi page. And she specified that it's mad money, and I had to go and spend it on something mad, something I would never normally buy. So just before Christmas we went to a lovely shop in Glastonbury called Dillyway and Dillyway. The children wanted to go and look around Glastonbury, which if you're not in the UK is a kind of hippie town with lots of alternative shops and things like that. And there's this wonderful shop called Dillyway and Dillyway. You can look them up. They've got an Instagram account, I think, and they're on Facebook. And they make trips to India and they buy ethically Indian textiles and furniture and so forth. And so I treated myself to that. So thank you so much, lady whose name I can't remember. That was what I spent my mad money on. Anyway, sorry, I don't have any strength left to hold the phone up anymore. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the video, and I won't come back at the end. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Happy New Year to everybody. Bye bye. Boxing Day on the beach. From right to left is Lily, her boyfriend Max, who went too close to the sea, so has now taken his shoes and socks off. And my son Joey, and obviously Stella. And Stella, I'll stop a minute. Stella is wearing her little coat, which was bought for her by LJ. Thank you so much, LJ. Keeps her toasty warm, and it's waterproof and washable. It's brilliant. I told them to walk on ahead and play with the dog and amuse you, but they're just walking. Sorry, it's a bit boring. It's a lovely still day. Let's give you a little scan. Apart from the waves breaking, the sea's very flat and calm. And it's quite busy on Boxing Day. I'm going to have some lunch in a bit, but I did pre-book a table, so it should be okay. Right, I better walk on a bit and try and catch them up. Well, they have to come back this way anyway, so. And be careful I don't get wet feet. It kind of ebbs and flows nicely, the sea here, but then suddenly it comes right up. And then you have to run, woo, like that. That's where I was standing just there. Oh, they've stopped. But also we can't go too close to the cliffs. You see the cliffs, because they do fall, bits fall off them every now and then. And increasingly so. This is the Jurassic coast of Dorset, very famous for its fossils. Sometimes you can see fossils in the rocks, even now, even though there's obviously a lot of fossil hunting goes on along here. Oh, Stella's digging a hole. I'm sorry I haven't got my little stick with me, so I'm trying not to wobble. Let's stop here a minute. And we have to be careful because if the tide's coming in, we can get cut off here. So, just have to pay attention, respect the sea. Okay, well I'll go and catch up with them, and just wanted to share with you all. So, I'll see you in a bit. Today's the day that I'm going to take this bit of cloth, this bit of silk knot that I eco-printed, which was the first bundle I did with leaves from the woods here, that I shared. I think it was in a Park Home Life episode a little while ago, how I made it. And it's been hanging around, and I've been wondering how to treat it, whether to use it as a whole piece or what to do with it. And I think I'm going to make I know I'm going to make a scroll with it. And I thought of cutting it, I can't get it all in, but it's about 24 inches long, 60 centimetres long by about 10 inches wide, something like that. I thought about just putting something behind it and just stitching it as one piece. But then I thought, no, I want to make a scroll, and I thought I maybe cut it up the middle and just sew it end to end. And then I thought, no, I'm going to cut it up or tear it up completely and cobble it back together again in some way. And so I thought maybe it's interesting for some of you to watch me do that. Now I've got this lovely wooden spool with a, it's from a loom, I think that's why it's got that thing in the end of it. So I want it to fit round this. So that's determined my width of my background piece. And I've got this lovely old soft cotton flannel sheet. So I tore a strip from it, and it was white, and I dipped it in some tea, some old tea bags, and it went that sort of, orangey tea colour. And I thought, well, that doesn't really tone with this. So I then went and dipped it in my rusty water. If you've made rusty water for eco-printing, you can do that. That's quick and simple eco-dyeing. If you soak it's soaked in tea for maybe an hour, not more. And then I just went and dipped it in some rusty water for maybe 15-20 minutes. And then the tannin and iron reacts and you get this lovely soft grey. So I've got a strip that's actually slightly too wide for the scroll, but by the time I make the edges fluffier, I think it'll be okay. And I'm going to tear this up and collage it back onto this. And I'm going to do that with you. So I don't know whether I'll start at one end or in the middle or whatever. I hope it's long enough to fit it all on. There was a seam in the sheet, a mend, and I've left that like that. So I'll put that to one side for a minute and have a look at this. And, as Rod Stewart so rightly said, the first cut is the deepest. The first cut is the hardest to make. I'm not bothered about keeping whole leaves. I don't mind if I tear into some of them. I think it makes more interesting shapes. But I need to start somewhere. I think I'll start with the string marks. Now obviously because I'm going to back it, I have to choose which side. Now this side's got the lovely string marks from the outside of the bundle, and this side has got leaves and string marks, and I think I'm going to go for leaves and string marks as the right side. In other areas it's more obvious because the other side isn't as interesting. It's just really where the string marks are. So I'm going to just tear it, dear Henry. I'm going to judge my width from this somewhat. Don't be scared. That was to myself. Just going to tear it all the way through, I think. I just think, from having done this before, sometimes you can get a bit precious about cloths, and sometimes you do want to keep them whole, but other times if you break them up and reassemble them, you do make a much more interesting surface. Now because this is the string, I do think I'm going to have it on the end of the scroll, just to kind of honour its... See, now I'm thinking, if I do it like this, so that piece isn't backed, then I will be able to see both sides. Why don't I do that? I'm going to go here somewhere. Why don't I do that, you see? Thinking on my feet. I'm going to pull off the fluffy bits as I go along. So now I can make a seam of some kind and have that. Yep, like that I think. I'm just going to, for now, until I decide how I'm going to seam, I'm just going to overlap by 1/2 inch or so. Let's put a couple of pins. Now, sometimes I pin the whole thing and then go and do the invisible baste. Other times I might pin a few bits and then do invisible baste and so on. I don't know yet what I'm going to do here, we'll see. Now I don't want to just have it the same width all along, I want to, you know, make it more interesting. So let's start with this bit that's already here in a bit. This is a nice edge with a little bit of string lines. And it's got quite a faint leaf on it. I'm just going to go somewhere there. And I may or may not use all of it. I may or may not even introduce some other bits of cloth. I haven't got any other bits here, but I'll see how I go. So that can go. Let's have that on the edge as well. And things might move. But it'll all be alright in the end. And if it's not alright, it's not the end. Alright, let's see what else. So I'm going to keep that bit there to one side. See what else we might want. Oops, I've caught my thread. I hope you can see, and I'm in the middle and all that. To keep myself a bit further left. Obviously you're not going to be able to see all of it all at once just because of the size of it. I'd even think sometimes it's nice, or it's good, to just go somewhere in the middle and just tear it with no thought in mind as to, you know, why. Because once it's torn, it's easy to tear it more. That's my thinking anyway. Now this Acer leaf, maple leaf, is very lovely. So do I want to keep that whole? Can I fit it on whole? I think maybe I do want to keep that whole. So I'm going to cut it the right width. And this again, just tear it all the way through, even though I'm going to tear it again. And just have a look-see. It's quite nice like that, isn't it? Or maybe the other way if I take some more off it. And I might do it here, and then this little element will appear somewhere else. So I'm just making it up as I go along. Then all the smaller pieces I'm just going to keep there. So it's a bit like a jigsaw really. Silk noil makes a lot of stringy ends, but it does get lovely fluffy edges. So if that goes there, I think that's a bit, I think I'm going to put it further along actually. I'm going to do more in between first, because I just find that's too similar in shape to that. I'm just going to move it along there. Sorry, it's a lot of me waving things about. And put another bit here, I think. Maybe I want something this sort of dimension. Ooh, this is nice here, this area with a bit of ash. Yeah, let's just, shall I go to there, to there? I'm just sort of eyeing up where I'm going to end up. I'm just going to go along the full length. I just find it, when I've got all these different sizes and shapes, I just find it then easier to work with. You could in principle just rip or tear everything up into squares and rectangles in the beginning and then go for it, I suppose. But I want a bit of control, I think, over what dimensions pieces can be. So I have that coming that way. Maybe I want that darker bit there. Oh yes, let's do that. Which means I'm going to cut off a bit of that oak leaf, but that's okay. Now that way, then you see you've got this grey going on here across the two pieces, or that way, which gives a harder line. I like the blendy better. I like to try and look for elements that will link the two pieces together, if that makes sense. And then I have to decide, do I want that under or over? Well, I can obviously change my mind right up until when I come to stitch it. Let's have it under for now. That fluffy edge is a bit nicer. So just put a couple of pins in there. And we need to put something here, of course. Do we want this maple next? That makes quite a nice shape with that stem. Do you see I'm looking at the line of this stem going that way and the line of this stem going that way? And then in my head I'm thinking when I stitch then, it's lovely to stitch these marked cloths because you can respond to the marks in the cloth with your stitching. So I think I'm going to go for that, at least for now, and have it under like that. A couple of applique pins. Do I want to go back and address this gap? I feel like I want something darker in there. Have I got something darker? Yeah, there's a dark bit. So now I'm looking much more at shapes and shades of colour rather than that's a maple leaf, you know, and so on. So if I wanted a piece in there, which piece would I want? Let's go like that. I hope this isn't freaking you out, me just hacking this up. But it's what it's for. And I just love making these. It's collage, I suppose, but with larger pieces of eco print. You know, I've got that little rose leaf. I don't think I want that here. I think I do want this. So I'm just going to make that the right size. Do I want to make it longer? I think I want to make it longer even, so I don't have a line here. So I'm going to go somewhere up there, so it overlaps that other piece. Because it's so soft to stitch her, it won't matter that there's then, you know, an extra layer there. Oh, sorry about my arm. And then you have to decide again, do you want under and over or whatever. Maybe I want that under there. And I'm overlapping by probably a good ½ inch, just so that, you know, nothing comes apart when you stitch. So don't bury pins underneath. I've done that before now, put pins in and then found them when I've been stitching because they're hidden under the layers. I'm also aware that my ground cloth was slightly too wide, so I don't really want to go wider still. Make sure I stay within the bounds. Now I've got a line there. Do I just want it like that maybe? So I'm looking at the lines of the joins and I'm also looking at the lines within the print. I'm trying it both ways round. That's a really nice edge because it's got the dark. Yeah, I think I like it like that. I like it like that. There's a song, isn't there? I like it like that. I don't know what the song is, but... Let's go through there. So this string mark end here, that's just one layer, that could be the actual end of the bundle, you know, the outer edge of the bundle, the scroll. That's what I'm maybe thinking. And it's possible that I won't stitch on that at all because it's just the one layer. Get some more fluff going on here. Okay. It's the first pieces that are the biggest challenge. I'm not going to worry about it being wider. Probably what I'll do is pick at it and, you know, have fluffy edges. Probably not with an applique pin, but something a bit bigger. I'll just see how it wraps around the scroll when it's basted. You can always do that afterwards. Right, we need to put a pin here. These little applique pins, I mean, I know you all know that I love them, but they're ideal for this because they're so small and they don't bite you the same as the bigger pins. And you can, if you bunch the thing up in your hands to stitch it, they're so small they sort of, you know, sometimes they do bite you, but they're pretty well behaved. Now I do think I want some of this lovely green that's all in this area. This was the black poplar leaf, and I think that was, what was that? Is that a bit of dogwood? Can't remember. So I'm looking at the shapes of what I've got there already. So this piece was quite square. This piece went across that portrait that way. These pieces are landscape. Because I do like some variety. This is quite green. And that's quite nice because this is a little bit of an edge of oak here, which is dark, like this is dark, and then this brown here from the onion skin kind of mirrors and offsets this brown from the onion skin. So I'm finding that pleasing. I like that. Yeah, let's have that like that for now. And I'll put that over, obviously, because I want that little edge of the oak showing. And maybe here, instead of having another piece to fill in that gap exactly, either I might have two pieces or one long strip that goes past the edge of that, if that makes sense. I've got this little strip, but that's very similar in colour. I've got this little strip with a bit of rose leaf on it. I can feel you all shouting at me, put that there, put that there. I hope it's not frustrating for you. This is quite nice and long, but I don't really want those two next to each other, I don't think. Right, if I do it that way. So even in a cloth that on the face of it looks pretty much all the same colours, when you start breaking it up and recombining it, you see that you do have variety to play with. Now I definitely want some of this dark, I think. Let's have a look at this bigger bit. That's that big hazel leaf. And that bit's quite dark. I think I'm going to get some of that bit out of there. So I'm going to go somewhere here. I really hope this isn't freaking you out. Well, you know, it's not your cloth that I'm trashing, it's my own, but it's kind of what it's for. In the beginning, when I first started eco printing, there is an inclination to be a bit precious about things. because, you know, it's so yummy if you like that kind of thing. And I'm just going to cut that to size. But after you've been doing it for a few years, you realise that actually you just make it yummier. You just make it yummier in the long run. So I could have that great big long bit. And I could come over a bit just to hide part of that. Maybe the other way around. It's always worth trying things the other way around. Ah yes, now, do you see what I see? Here, again, the stalk of this ash leaf is joining up with the midrib of this other leaf underneath. And it's very subtle, but it's just telling me that that's where that wants to be. So that's where it's going. And I do like that I've covered this little bit, you know, the tiny point of that. It's just that little element of hiding something, you know. I think it just makes it more interesting than if you just see the whole leaf. Under, yeah, leave it like that because I like that. And put that pin there. And another pin here. And I shall roll the end over a bit. Right, not too much. I like to see at least the last bit where I was, so that I can, you know, judge the next bit. Now maybe we want some of this super darkness. So I'm varying the sizes of the pieces and the shapes as well. And I'm also varying or paying attention to where they're distinct marks, let's call them marks now rather than prints, and where they're more subtle, so that there's balance. You could do it another way and have all the darks at one end and graduate down towards the lights, or, you know, there's any number of ways you can do it. And if I put that there, how about if I put it like that? I might not have the whole bit. And then put that under there. How about that? That looks alright. Do I want that whole great big long bit? No, I don't think I do. I think I'm going to cut somewhere here. I think I'm going to cut this little hawthorn in half. And put the other half further up. So then you see half the hawthorn here, and later on there's the other half as you look through the scroll when it's finally all stitched and in its scroll. A little bit of repetition. It's another design trick, is that the word for it? I don't know. Design thing. Righty ho. And once you get your pieces down, you know, when you've got less to work with, I find it almost more straightforward to do in a way, because less choice. If you follow the Monday project, you'll remember the desert island stitching. Where's that bit? There's that thin bit somewhere here, where we had less choice. Yes, I think I'm going to put that there. Do I want that hanging off the side? That's probably going to be a pain around the scroll if I do that. Let's do it that way. But I'm going to put it under. Maybe not that far under. There we go. Just put it under and pull it back out again. And I've got a tiny space here. But that's alright. Can I tear this little edge? Oop. And I'm going to endeavour to use every bit. I'm not saying I can, but I'm going to try. So, and even little bits like that, if they don't go into the collage, you could put them on as a patch somewhere, you know, so that'll make another little thingy bob of interest is a technical term. Point of interest. I feel like since that's such a tiny bit, I want it to be something quite striking. That's too big. I don't want to use that there. It's got some nice speckles on it. That's a great big bit. I need to cut that up a bit more. Maybe some of this darkness again. I like that line there, I don't want to lose that. And there's another line that kind of mirrors it. Maybe I'll put some of that there and tuck it under there. Hope I'm still in shot, hardly. Just 1 second, I'll move it up. Move it up so you can sort of audition pieces before you cut them. So if I put that under there like that, and then you've got this rusty line here and then this rusty line here. And then if I cut, no, I think I'll just leave it that length like that. I could then trim some of that away. I'll do that in a minute. So I'm going to cut this here. So that's going to go. Oh, there's a line more pronounced on the back. Yes, it is. I'm going to put that under there so I get these two parallel lines, but one stops there and one carries on. And I'm going to get that tiny bit out from under there. See, if I'd left this piece and not trimmed it yet, I would have had a bigger piece torn off rather than two little pieces. But like I said, I don't mind because those little pieces will go back on as patches at the end. So that's going to go like that. And the other thing I do is I don't pin this edge down until I decide whether the next bit's going under or over. And I try and use as few pins as I can while still holding it together. Just enough to hold it while I, make the basting stitches. Right, so I'm looking at both sides, but this side is most interesting, I think. That's a bit of stalk, I think, of the maple leaf. I like this bit of rouge. Maybe that wants to go under. So then these little areas, when you come to stitch, it gives you something to go on if you've got different shapes and spaces and so forth. So you could decide that this space was too small and then put it completely under both of them. But I think it was more interesting to have that little space. So I'm thinking you could put seed stitches in there. I don't know yet, I'm not really planning that far ahead, but I'm just thinking it's nice to have big spaces, small spaces, lines going across from one piece to the other. Run out of pins, have to go into the pouch for some more pins. So if I have that there like that, I haven't had a piece going right across for a while. And put that on top because that's nicer. Yeah, I like that. That went in nicely. I need something for there. I feel like I want some of this really green bit. And there's another one of those lines because that's where the fold was, where the cloth was folded when it was bundled. And because I've got these two lines this way, I quite like the idea of having a line this way, and it also gives me an opportunity to say perpendicular. So, which way do I want to tear? Do I want to tear it, my strip that way? Of course you could cut a chunk out, but I always prefer to just tear the whole length. So do I want to tear it that way, or do I want to tear it that way first? I think I'm going to tear it that way. So I'm just looking underneath to make sure I've got at least ½ an inch each side, making my snip, just making sure that I don't snip what's underneath. I'm just going to tear that whole bit. And you could do the same thing if you had several cloths, you know. You don't have to just do it with one cloth. Just, you know, look for bits in all the bits of cloth, and don't have to be eco prints, of course. They could just be normal prints. Right, so that's going to go like that. Oh yes, I like that. I'll cut it, dear Henry. And put it on there. And do I want it just completely over the top like that, or do I want it tucked under? I think I liked it completely over the top. Excuse me. Pins, pinny pin pins. And now here I've got this long thin bit, but that's okay. Again, it's something to bounce off when you start doing your slow stitching. Okay. So this is a lovely, and the cloth becomes much more interesting. It's like you're making little tableau. You know that thing when you get those frames of cardboard and you go over an image, I think photographers use them to find an interesting part of the image. It's a similar principle, because I've taken that big cloth and made it into little individual pieces, which I've then put back together. But you see each little piece becomes more of a star in its own right, rather than, you know, just being one great big cloth. Oh, look at that lovely dark line. We need that to be somewhere. Maybe we'll have that going up this side. So then I've got lines here, and then I've got a line here, and then I'm going to have a line somewhere here. So that moves your eye through the piece. If it was a wall hanging and you were going to see it all at once, that would obviously be more striking. It's nice to look for things that move your eye through the piece. So I think I want it somewhere like that. So it is going to get trimmed. I'm not going to trim it yet until I decide what's going here. Maybe baby, the other bit of this maple. Like a so. Do I want it like that, so it's right on the very edge, only just visible? I think I do. I think I do. I think I like that. But then do I want part of it under here? So then you have to think, if I don't want this line, if I want part of it under there, I can't have this part under there because this part's over that. Do you see what I mean? So this, if it has to be any part, it's that. But just try it and see what you like. Oh yes, I like that. I do like that, because now that's visible, which it wasn't before I'd hidden it. It's that little black dot that you get on the end of the stalk. That's where the tannin has leaked out of the stalk and reacted with the iron in the bundle. So you get these little blobs, which I just love, quite frankly. Normally I wouldn't be on this cloth pinning, I'd be on a table or a cutting mat so that I could pin things without pinning them to the cloth. But anyway, I'll manage. So I've got a long thin bit there to tear off, but that's all right. I can pull that out and do it, and then put it back. If it pulls out of shape, I just put it back into shape. So that was there, and that was under, wasn't it? Under and under, like that, maybe slightly further under. And it is nice, I like, that's another reason I like to have the backing cloth toned, you know, in a toning colour rather than, you know, pure white against the eco prints. I'm never a fan of. And that's me. Because then, if the fluffy edges show, it all is part of it. And also, obviously, in a scroll, you'll see both sides as you undo the scroll to have a look. So I just think it is nice to have a backing cloth that tones in some way. And I'm getting towards the end of my background. I thought I'd done plenty. Right, so what have we got left? I got this long thin bit with this lovely green poplar and a bit of rose. I've got, oh, what's that? Oh, that's my basting thread that I've pulled out of my needle, I think. Never mind. I've got this little thin bit. Which has got beautiful marks on. And I've got these two tiny bits, and I've got this bigger bit. So, again, I've got the dark line here, so do I carry on with my lining, you know, making lines, and have that going that way again? Or you could equally say, I want it that way, so you've got that line, and then, oh, maybe that is nice. So it looks like the line's broken and it's hopped down. And if I put something behind here so that's visible, perhaps I'll do that. And what about if I do that? No, I don't like that so much. This is what's going through my brain. That's what you're hearing. Is what's going through my brain. Not that I wouldn't be talking to myself if I wasn't talking to you, because it's very possible that I would be. I don't feel I want all of that though. I feel I want to cut it here. Or tear it here. All those fluffy bits, by the way, going into the aughts because they're nice to use as texture if you want to put some texture on a piece or something. Well, it's got some white mixed in, but look, that's lovely. Or if you make aught beads, or, you know, just lovely colours. Of course, I've got millions of them, probably more than I'll ever use. No, I wanted it there. So I'm just going to overlap it like that for now until I see what I put here. And now my choices are very limited. Yeah, I think I'm going to pull that further up so that there is a break in the line, because I didn't want to make a line through there that wide enough just. So I'm going to do that there. I'm also inclined to, if like, not cut pieces or tear pieces in half. That was about an inch bigger, because then you'll get two pieces the same size. So I'm more inclined to deliberately do it not quite half. If that makes sense. I think that needs to go that way again. I like to cover a little bit of that, I think. And then that can go behind there. No, that can go there, and that can go there. That can go over the top. Am I still in frame? It's keeping track of a great long piece and making sure I'm still in frame all the time. So now I've only got these little bits left. And what if I put some of this? No, that kind of stops it too much. I could put a tiny bit of it just there. Or I could put it, ooh, I don't want to cover that dot there. No, that needs to go there because I want that dot showing. I've got the continuous line then. Sorry, that was a thinking noise. So this is going to go behind. Let's do that. It's going to go behind all that. I'm going to put it the other way around, I think. Is it going to go behind that as well? And also for moving cloth, do you know that thing? If you just use your tips of your fingernails, excuse my hands by the way, but I did say I'd been in tea and iron, and that's why my hands are that colour. That's better. Now that's a nice little quiet piece there. There's actually a hazel leaf. There are some little lines on it. See this piece, worst case scenario, I'll just divide it up into patches. But I did want to end up with it sort of squared off at the end somehow. So what if so I need to have enough. So all I've got left are these two tiny bits. Are they in shot? This little strip and this bit. So I could just put that bit there and call this the end and make patches out of the rest. Or I could put this bit here, fill that in with a couple of bits of that. Or how about if I do that? Yes, yes, yes. And then I can do that. Maybe, baby. Like so. And then I can get some of that off and use what I take off there to fill it. Because I like this little dot, and this little dot, and this little dot, and then this little dot. Do you see all the dots? So again, it just leads your eye through. And then with your stitching, you could sort of link them in some way maybe. So it just gives you, yeah, it just makes it a real pleasure to stitch on. You don't sort of look at it and think, what am I going to do on here? Oh, I want this little piece, this little green bit to be prominent. So I'm going to tear that there. We're getting there. Mind you, it's the best fun. There's no part of this process that isn't fun. From the eco printing through till the slow stitching. So now I just need, so I've got these little bits left, little patches, and I got this slightly bigger piece which will just fill that little space in there if I don't keep ripping at it. So it could go behind some of it. How do I want? So I definitely don't want to cover that up, and I definitely don't want to cover that, so I think I'm going to do it like that, maybe that way. Because I don't know, I'm going to try it that way. Because there was a brown area here, and I'm going to put it the other way because this brown area Am I still in frame? Yep. This brown area then will sort of go with this brown area, I think. I'm going to try it. That was my thought anyway. I'll try it and see. Yeah. And then this curve is echoed by this curve. So I'm just looking at all that kind of thing. Yeah, that curve's lost a bit because I definitely want to keep that. I could turn that. Turn it. Then that's a nice fluffy edge. The trouble is all of it's nice, so you have to decide what you... No, I definitely want that under. Put it back how it was. Often happens, doesn't it? You fiddle about for ages and then you end up putting it back like you had it in the first place. Do I want to pull that across a bit and then put something on the end? Yes, I'm going to do that. Right, let's get some pins in that. Can you see the end? Just. And I did have enough. I don't even need that bit on the end there, that bit that was half stitched on. And then a pin here. And a pin here. I got a bit carried away at the end and stopped pinning. Got a bit carried away putting pieces on. So I need to go back and put pins everywhere. And then I'll run the whole piece past you. And I'll put those little patches on. I got 3 more pins. I could of course go and get more. 1. And I've got some big pins as well. I need to get something in that. Because there's that little piece behind there and it'll fall out otherwise. I'll have to get one of these pins because I'm so used to only using those little applique pins. When I get a normal pin like this is just a normal glass-headed pin, it feels like a tree trunk. There we go. Is that right? I think so. So I'm going to leave this attached for now. I don't know why, I just feel like it, until it annoys me so much that I get it off. And I would certainly leave this part attached because a little bit of the backing where I want to attach it to the scroll, for example, I don't know if you've watched the Stitch Meditation scroll video. That was way back, but then you see I could stitch that around the spool like that. Do you see? So I always like to have the backing a little bit longer than the stuff I put on the top. Right, so let's move that. I will need a couple of pins for my little scraps. So I'll go back to the beginning. So I've got my little string mark bit here, which I left single thickness, and I'm going to do something there, I don't know what yet. And then I had the string marks here again, repeating, and then here. And my lovely big maple leaf, but that's my eyes going from there to there, which is good. And that line of the stem feeds into the veins of that leaf. And I like that the bit of oak's missing there, but here it is here. So that kind of makes a connection. And here again I've got that line like that. And like what you want, I think, with when you're designing, which is what this is really, is you want your eye to travel around and maybe rest here and there for a moment when it catches a point of interest, but not get stuck somewhere. You don't want something shouting at you and everything else doesn't get seen, which obviously you can change, enhance or disguise when you stitch. You're going to add another layer to it. And with these bold prints like this, That's why I think it's nice to partially cover them as well and sort of spread them out a bit. Unless you really want drama, and then you put them all together in one place and make a big noise. My son used to say that when he was little. Make a big noise. It make a big noise. So I'm just, letting my eye go along and just seeing if it stops anywhere, if it gets stuck, or if it's more if it's taking a pleasing journey. And I think it is, I like these rusty lines going here this way and carrying on there. That's leading your eye through the piece. I think I'm happy with it. But I do want to include these two little scraps. It's the only bits I didn't use. So where am I going to put them? Now what I like, if there's a great long line, it's nice to put a scrap across to just break the line. So like here I've got this great long line, so maybe I don't want to cover that up. Maybe I want to put the scrap somewhere just to break the line a little bit, or maybe not so the line's going exactly halfway through, but slightly to one side. So you see the line, oh, the line's gone, there's the line back again. It's just more visually interesting, I think. Just going to get a bit more fluff onto that. And you could then, of course, when you're stitching, carry on the line with your stitching through that scrap. So you've hidden the line and then you've put it back again. And do it like that. Yes, 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 yes. Let's get one of these giant pins. They're not giant, they're just normal pins. And so I've got my one other little scrap. And here I've got a line. Do I want to break that line up? No, I don't think I do, because it's broken up by this, really. But I've challenged myself to use every last bit, so every last bit I shall use. We sit here for an hour now trying to find a home for this little bit. Oh, we'll put it there because it blends. Is that cheating? I don't think so. I don't think. Oh, don't pull that. That's attached. I'll snip it. That's annoying me. Yeah, because it blends with all the grey around it. So I think I'll have that. Again, slightly offset. Yeah, so I can reuse this pin and go through all of that. And where's the other, one more giant pin, which I'm going to swap. I'm going to put a little pin there and a big pin there. Okie dokie. So there we go, I'm all pinned. So what I do now is I'll go and do the invisible baste. Probably I will do, you could either just invisible baste a journey through, making sure you go up and, round every junction where two pieces of cloth meet, or you could just invisible baste through sort of an inch or so apart through the whole length. I think I'm going to do I think I'm going to invisible baste through, but make sure that I get the edges as I go, kind of thing. I mean, it's only to hold it while you do the fancy stitching. So I'll go away and do that, and when that's done I shall come back and show you. But if I do that here, this is already nearly an hour long. If I do that here, it'll be hours. So anyway, I hope that construction part of the process was interesting and useful. I just thought I'd share it with you, and yeah, I'll be back in a bit to show you it all basted. Okay, so I've done all the invisible basting. At this end here where I had the little single bit, the string marks, I made a seam, just the two back sides together, and stitched a little 1/4 inch seam, and then I pressed the seam open inside there, just so it laid nice and flat, and then I just basted down, do you see either side of the seam. And then these edges I overlapped, but you see that's, well, you see the that side of the seam there, so it just adds an extra fluffy edge. You can never have too many fluffy edges. So I just, in the end, I did kind of, I don't know if you can see because I use grey, kind of just went round the edges of all the patches. And now I've got this lovely cloth with no pins in, and it's just all as if it's one cloth. And now I can just go and do my fancy stitching on it. I'm not going to do that in the video. If you saw Park Home Life, when I showed the piece that I was going to make for the top of a curtain of collage eco prints, I started that piece 10 years ago and only just finished it. This is a bit smaller, you know, and I am going to go stitching on it, but yeah, it will take a long time. So at some future point when I've done the stitching on it, I will share it with you somewhere. But I hope the way that I put it together, you know, and got to this stage was useful and interesting to you all. But yeah, it's lovely to create these cloths and then stitch on them. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting me. It's so appreciated. Sorry, I'm stroking my cloth because it's so lovely. And I look forward to you joining me next time for more cloth tales. Bye bye.